Hey, folks. Wow. Welcome back. Profiling Evil with Mike and Chris. And is this the Wild West or what, Chris?
It's fire practice. This is exactly only some of it. We had rounds incoming, so everybody went under the cars. I love it.
Yeah, I kept thinking, I had in my mind the old Elton John song, "Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player."
Hey, look at the chat. Looks like folks are, yay.
Everybody, okay. We hope you're hearing us. We're going to start again, and we just jumped up 1,000 people. So please, we're going to just ask you if you would let us know if you're hearing things.
Yeah. Hi from Ohio. Hi, Sharon. Beth.
Let's say hi to a few people while it's ringing in, just to test things out. Glowing Ember, really good to see you, Mrs. Kojak. Thanks. I like this one, Chris. 6 impossible things before breakfast is in. Justice is in, and Justice is, I think, hammered us a few times recently over some things. I can't remember what it was.
And you deserved it. You deserved it.
I probably did.
Tammy says we're like hornets in here. Thank you. Tara, perfect. What do we got? Who else we got here? Jenna. Much better. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your
patience. Kim B. Oh, I haven't seen Opinionated Oma for a while, but I know she's been in. I just haven't called it out. Jasmine Marcus, Sophie, thank you. 77 MCI. It's really good to see you all. We're gonna jump in. It looks like now we're going again. So shout out to Tim and Skylar in the chat box, who cleared this up and solved this problem and got us back in action. And it's really good to see you. Hey, Ron, brother, how you doing? So good to see you. And folks, again, we're going to just say we are closing in on 29,000 subs. I think we're a couple hundred shy. Would you please tell your friends? And if you're not a sub already, would you just consider it? Because we'd really like to keep growing. Darcy Ann, thank you so much. And to all of you, thank you. This has been a roller coaster day. And Chris, I don't know. I thought maybe it would be kind of nice. Carmelo Belmont sent some photos over today from the search that Andy was on at the 13,000 foot level. Guys, if we could, in the back shop, put up a couple of pictures from that search today. I don't know if any of you have ever had altitude sickness. Skylar, who's on the call, has, and it doesn't matter your age or anything else. I mean, we're raised in a high altitude state, and one time when he was hiking at the 10 and 12,000 foot level, it hit him for no unknown reason. But this is where they were today. Chris, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so obviously they went up about 10,000 feet. Andy,
I think they were at 13.
Was it 13?
I think it was 13 today. Yeah.
Okay, so the day started out this morning, talking with Andy, and he was like, "Hi, Andy. Andy Crayons, good to see you. Thanks for fixing it." So essentially, what happened today was, so Andy circles up, kind of gets this plan on where he's going and how he's going to get there. He had to check off a couple of boxes. So one of the things, that's important sometimes, and we're going to tell you where he is and what's going on. In fact, we've got some news for you big time tonight about, the progress of the investigation, the progress of I just lost you. Okay, there you are.
Well, the progress of this whole investigation.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm talking to the screen there.
I'm starting to call him Andy's Army and what Andy's Army is doing. And by the way, zoom in on that. That's Andy's boat that he hauled from Indiana. It's got sonar in it, and he's been checking a lot of places. Chris, this particular location was kind of significant, and a lot of people have just hammered us day in and day out, wondering about predictions and revelations by psychics. What led us there today?
Well, today was medium day. Okay, and I want to show you something very interesting. So this is a coffee cup, as you can see. I don't drink coffee, but this is a coffee cup. Okay, I drink other things. So it says Mick Rockpile on it. Okay. So during any kind of major high profile investigation such as this, there are some people who have, gifts, and they get intuition, they get feelings, etc. Well, there was a tremendous amount of that coming in through to Suzanne's case here. And there still is. There's still a lot of information that comes in, okay? So what Andy wanted to do was not dismiss some of those revelations or feelings that he was having. And remember, this is about Andy and his search for his sister. So as we circled up, we supported him in relationship to, look, you've got to eliminate those things. And that's how I actually earned this cup, McRockpile, okay? Because I have always been that guy. I don't know what it is. I try to get along with everybody, and I don't judge. And it's like, okay, if you got something, let's roll with it. And I had one situation one time where it was a huge mound of rocks, and we were supposed to dig them, one by one out of it. And that's what we did. Okay. And that's how I got this.
Yeah. Right here. I don't know of many, many death investigators that haven't dug their own number of holes in pursuit of these cases. I got hammered in some of the chats, Chris, because I smile and I laugh sometimes. This is serious business, but the memories are still, there are still fun things that happen in these investigations and things that crack you up. Sometimes, folks, it's just the stress of the investigation and all of a sudden something weird happens, like a guy with a muzzle loader walking up behind you or something.
We couldn't have scripted that the other night, and me being, as goofy as I am, the guy's walking up behind you with a gun, and I'm like, oh, look at Mike's out there with one of his friends, and you didn't even know the guy. Thank you, Sarge.
No. Oh yeah. Thanks a lot, Sarge. Yeah, and we missed a couple. Calispo wife. Thank you. Aloha to Chris, particularly there. Yep. Good grandma. Every grandma's a good grandma, but thanks. That's so awesome that you would jump in. So keep going, Chris. I mean, it was so funny. You can't script this stuff.
You can't script it. It's scripted. I mean, this is the kind of thing that is made just for quiet practice, where you've got this guy walking up behind you with a rifle, and you're like, hey, there's a guy coming with a rifle. And I'm like, oh, look, there's a friend of Mike. He must be out there hunting. And you had no idea who the dude was.
I've never seen him in my life.
Never met him in your life. And here I am, going, hey, good to see you. Meanwhile, the other night, we were having other issues with things, from bandwidth problems down there in town. So, it's been a real roller coaster, and today's been another one of those roller coaster days. I mean, it's been absolutely interesting. Maybe Sunshine, thank you so much. We really appreciate you. So,
I'm with you. In fact, there was one thing that was kind of troubling to me today. Can we pull up that Daily Mail article Karen, for a moment? Karen, thank you so much. Good evening to you as well. And to all of you, thank you so much. We're going to try to field questions tonight, so please be thinking about your questions, and any of the links that you might need are down below. So just look in there. But this exclusive, FBI has called in a scent of human remains is discovered on land owned by husband. Some people were attributing this to profiling evil. Others were saying we'd made statements. Folks, that's not our job. We're not making statements. We're not saying what's happening. We're letting people that are in the field tell you what they are seeing and what they're witnessing. And I mean, I guess to some degree they might be a little bit accurate here. If the cadaver dog is trained to alert on human scent, clearly everything we were told is that those dogs alerted, Chris, and maybe we can come back to that in a little bit. But it's like, how do you kind of respond to some of these news agencies that are trying to get numbers and trying to get a scoop? And it's like everybody's trying to beat themselves, and so they start pushing theories rather than facts. And I don't know how many times we've said it on here before, but it's the old Sherlock Holmes mentality of don't build a theory until you've gathered the facts. And before I hand it to you, I want to just say, Stella Bella, thank you. Tammy King, no relation, but cool. We got a new member in the house, and Meredith. Thank you. She's saying, please ignore people judging you for my facial expressions. I gave up on that a long time ago, Meredith.
You can't help it. You cannot help it.
I have a goofy face, but it is a sincere goofy face, and it's just the best I can do. But yeah, Chris, what do you think about this article? And we're not calling out the Daily Mail because, they've actually popped some information out that's been pretty valuable. But yeah, again, most importantly, I guess we don't want to attribute it to us.
Yeah, exactly. So here's Mike. You want me to just kind of start checking a couple of boxes here?
Sure. Well, you do whatever you want. Squire practice.
Okay, it's choir practice. So this is the one of the things. Okay, so yeah, what a lot of folks maybe you are not aware. Okay, but Mike and I sit on the Cold Case Foundation. It's a 501c3, and we train homicide investigators all over the United States. All
around the world, frankly.
All around the world, right. I mean, we just did a case for a family in Siberia whose son was killed in Siberia, and there was a question in relationship to that problem. I'm working 2 situations out of Texas right now that are one of them's like 20-something years old. Okay, that said, okay.
Well, I want to stop you there, Chris, though, because I want to just make mention. What we do is we kind of do edutainment on this show. What we do in the Cold Case Foundation is real police work supporting law enforcement in actual cases that they're dealing with. Here, we try to pick up some cases that we get a little frustrated that we don't see much movement on, or in this case, where a family member steps up and says, I got to have some help trying to find my sister. And that's kind of the space we feel here. But when you're talking about those 2 cases in Texas that you're working, folks, those are ongoing police homicide investigations.
Yep.
And it's a lot different than what we're doing here, where we just try to theorize based on public information. There we have all of the information, and we're working side by side with law enforcement.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's where we're coming from. Okay. So Andy calls us one day. It was actually the 7th of August, and says, look, my sister's missing. Okay. And we're like, yeah, okay. We've seen a little bit of what's going on here, but not in totality. And so we started looking into, because he asked us, he said, would you help me find my sister? Okay. Now we're not private investigators or anything like that. That's not what we do. We're strictly here, and we have other things that we do in our lives, but we happen to be in this business real time. And so, long story short, we said absolutely we will help you in terms of we will guide you on some things to look for, some things to do, but you have total control, and you have to do what you need to do. And he was totally understood that. Okay. So we started listening and engaging. And as you remember, we saw some of those videos, and full credit goes to Tyson.
Tyson did a great job collecting something. He's taken some hits.
He's taken hits.
And you know what? Had he not done it, there would have been a lot of behaviors that would have been missed.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what we did is we tied up this idea that says, okay, what's going on here? What are we seeing here from our experience? And again, we have gone through a lot of different scenarios, a lot of situations, and we have not left the house. Okay. Right. The victim continuum, Michael.
Yeah. I want to just stop you there, Chris, because I think this is a perfect time to clarify something. We have people saying things like, hey, Andy's already said he's not going back in the house. Folks, don't miss the imagery here when we say we're not leaving the house. That doesn't mean that if something happened, it could have happened outside of the house. The house, in our opinion, is the key factor here. And so when we keep saying go back to the house, there are reasons for that. And blessings for the body. Thank you so much. You are so kind, and I wanted to shout out, Chris, before I hand it back to you, Stella, Bella, and our new members. Thank you for joining up with us. But please, let's go on.
Yeah. So anyway, we had a conversation with Andy, and we kept it on the down low for, out of respect for everything that was going on. And after we had talked to him, he didn't say, would you investigate this or anything like that? That's not what he asked. Okay. All he asked was, here, this is my little sister. And he told us about his little sister. Okay. And he says, I want to find my little sister. That's what he asked us. Okay. Yeah. And so we helped him. We counseled him on how to raise her awareness in the public side, in the media side. Okay. Because as I think everybody knows, we've got almost 4,000 people watching this right now, and the chat room here. I think there's not a single soul on this earth that after 6 or 7, 10 days after Suzanne went missing, maybe 30 days, it went silent. Okay. That is the most dangerous thing in a missing person's case. And I guarantee you, there are hundreds of people watching us right now with loved ones who will be able to testify to that as being a truthful statement. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We couldn't allow it to happen. We actually kind of made some adjustments in what our formatting was to help bring Suzanne back to the surface.
Right.
And because of you people, this has happened. It's forced the hand of a lot of people to at least acknowledge and do some things. It's also probably made some people uncomfortable. And we, like everyone else, keep reminding people, we don't know if there are certain people that are guilty. All we can do is talk about behaviors and information that we hear, the same things that you see online there, but nobody is suggesting that anybody is responsible for anything from our standpoint. Yep. But to the naysayers out there who might suggest that something more than that is happening, holy cow, pay attention, because our job's simple. Focus on facts.
Yeah, there was a couple of key drivers for where today is and where Andy is. Okay, and by the way, where Andy is right now, and we're going to explain why he's there. He is basically at a tree and at a piece of property that the Daily Mail put up today. Okay, and we're going to explain why he's there. Okay. And so if we look at the a lot of the thrust that took place, the YouTube channel Plunder, fantastic. We had Tyson, It's a Crime, Ron, and Web Sleuths. We can go right down the list of all the YouTube, true crime community. Okay. And if I've missed you, forgive me. It's not on purpose. It's not intentional. I just want to talk about early on and how this thing thrust. Okay. As this thing started to move, Mike and I sat back and we did a behavioral analysis of on some of the statements that we heard. Okay, and this was the he, the we, us, them, those kind of things, the mountain lions, all the other things. Okay, and then we started, just asking questions, and we started looking around things, okay? And we discovered some things, and we turned those things over. We've turned those things over to CBI. We've turned them over to the FBI and a variety of other, the sheriff's office or whoever. Okay. So with the intent that Andy is on, coming out to look for his sister. And there, Michael,
we got to pause. Is that Hooley?
That's Hooley. He's
Hooley, welcome aboard from Nashville.
True crime. Yeah, exactly. There's more coming. Yeah. Thank you.
It's good.
Forgive me for not mentioning. Go ahead.
No. How can you pass up seeing Hooley and not shout him out? And probably one of the greatest promoters in country western music and
Christian music.
Tracy Knapp, thank you. Yeah, and Christian music. Yeah, and blessings for the body again. Thanks. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, no, you're fine. And Hooley, call me later. You owe us something. I'm teasing. So anyway,
explanation is what he owes us.
he owes us an explanation. So anyway, so that said, let's fast forward now. Andy's on a mission. We provide the platform on helping him, tie these, some of the loose ends together. We provide Esri steps up with some technology. We have some other things, some intelligence analysis, that we have access to through Natalie and through Rob and through, and these guys, by the way, and Tube Guy, he's a former Marine or a Marine. Okay. And so are these guys. And, Semper Fi to you, Jim, to you out there, Guy. And he's a warrior too, by the way, our friend there. He's been there and done that. Shannon, thank you. So we put all this stuff together, i.e. everybody is in of the same focus to find this young lady. Okay. Andy comes down with a bunch of people from her hometown. Okay. And here we are today. They have logged, thousands of miles that we can actually track and see.
Almost 6,000, Chris.
Almost 6,000 miles. And how many? 750?
700 plus searchers. Yeah.
700 plus searchers. Dogs, everything. Okay. So let's put a couple
I want to put that in perspective because before Andy picked this thing up,
thank you, Don.
Before Andy picked this thing up, the sheriff in one of his press releases kind of touted that he's put 100 people in the previous 4 months on searches for Suzanne. Well, this man put an army of 700 together and came in, and I wish that there would have been more direction to help him understand the areas to search. But at least law enforcement was there to support him when they did uncover things. And they actually uncovered things that were significant enough that law enforcement secured the scene and then told him to go away. And that's some of the frustration that's led to where we are today. And again, they have to hold things to the close to the vest. And we don't know the answers to a lot of these questions, but we have to ask the questions, I think.
Yeah. And so what do we know? Okay. And as we move forward here tonight, we're going to reveal some information that's very sensitive and close to the vest. Okay. However, okay, this is firsthand information, firsthand knowledge. Okay. If this was my case, and which, by the way, Mike, if this ever came to us, we would turn this information back and say we would do A, B, C, and D because of this reason. Okay. And if you haven't seen Greg Cooper with Mike and myself and the Cold Case Foundation video, go back into our earlier set of videos. Okay. John Douglas is the executive director of Cold Case Foundation, i.e. the John Douglas who wrote the book Mindhunter, and all the shows are projected after him. Mike is a director in the Cold Case Foundation, and I'm also a member of that team. Okay. So what we would do in a cold case is we would give an analysis, and then we would hand a set of protocols. And, this is information. And by the way, we have doctors, we have forensic psychologists, we have anthropologists, we have medical examiners. We have about 85 of us on this team. Okay. And we would do an assessment and hand it off to an agency. Okay. So we hear some information, we chase it down behind the scenes. Okay. And I talked to some people. They called me. Okay. And we discover some things about this investigation. Okay. Enough to where we say to Andy, okay, you need to do A, B, C, and D with cadaver dogs. Okay. So he does. He goes down by the wall. He goes out to where there's an area where he finds a tree, and he goes back to another area today where this, the Daily Mail, and put that back up here if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I'd like to put up the picture by the river when we're done here too, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's do the river first, Mike. Let's do the river
I think
first.
that would make good sense. And we're doing that because it's already been released by somebody else. So folks,
this isn't
we're not creating a problem for law enforcement. This is something that came out by somebody else, but we gave this information. We know that Andy gave this information to law enforcement. So no, if we could go to the later image, or Chris, did we forget to get that one over to him? Let's see.
Yeah, no, it's did you forget it? Anyway, it's the one yesterday you probably saw, and we're going to get it up here, where Andy has this dog and he's working the river, okay, where this beach thing is, okay, and the dog goes and gets that passive hit at the end of the beach, okay. You see Andy out there with a probe, okay. Now that's a hint, okay. Whenever you see the brother of a missing woman, the sister, with a probe, okay, that means he's digging for something, okay? And when he probes the ground, scent potentially could come up if somebody was buried under there, okay? Now, hypothetically, the dog does a couple of hits and hits it, okay?
Oh, not hypothetically, the dog, it's reported that the dog does a passive alert.
Right.
Yeah. So explain here it is. Here's the picture. Right. So yeah, there we see one of the areas that was interesting to us based on different kinds of things that we had heard about. And you see Andy with that probe and these cadaver dogs. These are not somebody's dog that they go out for a walk with on Thursday afternoons.
These aren't trained. These are service dogs.
Right? Yeah, trained cadaver dog. And thank you, little Miss Mary and Chef Betsy. And I know I missed a couple there, but they get a passive alert. And explain what a passive alert is, Chris.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about what happens.
Yeah. So essentially, in this situation, if a dog can't get to the scent, because a lot of time, it all depends how the dog's been trained. Okay. And they're all certified, by the way. They get paperwork. Some of them, if the handler has testified in trial, they and vordired, and what that means is, and our attorney friends, can tell us that, right, on some of the other channels. Okay. What that means is the investigator, i.e. the handler, is asked by the defense and the prosecution and the judge about the training and experience of the handler and the dog, okay? If that handler and the dog has the credentials to fit an expert witness for that case that they're handling, and by the way, they do this pre-trial or during the trial sometimes, and what they say at that point is, okay, this guy is a subject matter expert. Okay, you can testify as an expert. You have been vordired as an expert in court. In this case, it would be about cadaver dogs. Okay, well, the dogs, and by the way, I talk to the handlers. Okay, I talk to the handlers personally on the phone. Tell me about your dog. Okay, one of the dogs has 3 positive hits. Okay, i.e. human remains, okay? The other dog is still training, okay? The other one. Now, he has success in training. That's what that meant. And that's why the first dog is most important, okay? Because that dog has actually found human remains, okay? So
3 times.
3 times, okay? Now, this dog that you're seeing here, this is the third dog, okay? This dog, handler and dog, is testifying in 3 separate murder cases as we speak. Okay. So what happens here is the sheriff then comes down and tells Andy, we got this. Okay. Now that's a very interesting terminology. Okay. Because Andy, who's looking for his sister, doesn't quite understand what investigative protocols are. Okay. There are 2 ways to process or to declare a crime scene. Okay. Number 1, this is a crime scene. go away. Yellow tape comes up, it's shut down. We're going to process this, okay? So first clue, if you've ever watched TV and there could potentially be a body buried, okay, what do you do? So that's first, that's homicide 101, okay? Homicide 101, right here, okay? Buried bodies, you dig and you remove them right here, okay? If you have an investigator that doesn't understand that, folks, okay, there's a problem. There is a real problem.
Now, we don't know what's happened there. We know that, we know that Andy and his team were told to step away, and law enforcement took that over. It was of enough interest that we were told by Andy and others that officers remained on the scene the rest of the day. We assume that they would preserve that scene and do further investigation. And maybe that was as simple as just bringing another dog in. But that becomes a big question, is what ended up happening with that particular scene, and what is the plan? I think the frightening thing is, Chris, if the plan is we'll go away and come back another day and look at it, there's a serious problem at that point, because you add a challenge in the evidentiary chain all of a sudden. And I don't know what the sheriff's office has done, but I read that report today that they have now said none of this has any remains in it. They may have some really stealthy way of doing things that I'm not aware of. And I don't know if there's any evidence to suggest whether they excavated the area or didn't. Again, this was a passive hit. So I guess you could kind of accept if they had other dogs with more experience that they brought in and didn't get a hit, that maybe they determined this is one we'll watch and see. I don't know. But and that could know what the status of that is. Is that place still being watched by law enforcement?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a troubling question that hopefully law enforcement has got justification to answer why they haven't. Yeah.
Right. So let's go to second picture of a tree.
And I want to call out a couple of people real quickly, Chris, if you don't mind. Just Southern Sass, it's good to see you again. Thank you so much. Teresa Wolf, thank you. I know that there were a couple of things, and one Southern Sass saying that she appreciates what we've been doing, and thank you. Little Miss Mary, gallows humor is actually considered a mature defense mechanism, which thank you. We appreciate that. Stephanie Herb, good to see you back on and joining up with us. And then again, I think Miss Tammy, Little Miss Mary, Stephanie again, thank you. We also want to make sure that you know, I mean, there's 5,000 people on here, and I don't want to lead anybody on. There were some quirky things that happened today, and before daylight ran out, our suggestion was to Andy was to step away and call us, and I don't know what bandwidth is like there, Chris, but he is not where he normally is to talk to us. So we may not hear from him. Hopefully we do, but
he's actually doing a couple of things. You're right, Mike, and we're going to explain to everybody what he's doing. And I just sent a picture over. So let's put that, when you get this picture, Tim, let's go ahead and put this up. Okay. So why is this significant? Okay. Well, this picture is a tree that a dog, well, once it comes up here, we're going to put it up here.
Yeah, I'm sending it over now.
Yep, no problem. I'll wait. So anyway.
So anyway, I wanted to make sure everybody knew, Chris, if somebody's only on here to hear Andy tonight, we hope he will join us. But he's got more important things. He's trying to find his sister, and he's got his own. Yeah. Here we go.
Right.
So thanks.
Okay.
And that picture's going over, so those guys will work on that in the back room.
Okay, so when you see this picture, okay, so essentially this picture is a tree that another cadaver dog hit on, okay, and twice, and the FBI, CBI, or excuse me, CBI, and there it is, right there, okay. They came in and they told Andy, "We got this. We got this." Okay. So what we're waiting for is Andy has gone back, guys, and this is where Andy is. Andy has gone back to that tree tonight. That's why he's not here. Okay. And he's waiting, or he's going to see if that tree has been disturbed. Now, I know we're saying some crazy stuff here, and you know what? I hope it's processed. I hope that sucker's been pulled out of the ground, because if somebody is under there, okay, because there are devices, they're called augers, and what you can do to plant a tree. And Mike, you know a lot about farming, and a lot of our viewers here. It goes straight down, and then at the bottom it expands and it spins, and it creates what is called a bell. Okay. And in that bell can be a circumference. Okay. Well, then you take a tree and you drop it into that hole, that shaft. Okay. And the roots expand into that bell. Okay. Well, it's possible. And other people have seen, okay, where a tree is dug out, a victim is put in, and the tree is put over that victim. Okay. Now, we don't know if that's the case, okay, but we do understand that the dog hit that tree. Okay. So personally, and actually I'm not getting into speculation, Tim, because I actually talk to people. I have our producer is saying, don't get into speculation. Okay. Well, I actually have firsthand information. Okay. I'm not going to reveal it right now, but they know who you are. You know who you are. I'm going to look right here in this camera. Okay. And I'll put my hand up in a murder trial. I do it all the time. Okay. So I'm not speculating. I'm saying that's a possibility. Okay. And when a total strange dog comes from Missouri to help his brother, and help find this somebody, and he goes and hits a tree, I find that's an interesting correlation, but we don't know, and that's not our job. That's not our job.
There you go. Okay.
Andy called us and said, I think I found something. And we started talking to him and said, Andy, there may be something there. You need to get the authorities over there. Okay. So I think we need to find out if that tree's been processed, because what concerned us about an hour ago or a half hour ago is a press release that came out from the Chaffee County Sheriff's Department. Okay. Now, and that press release says, we haven't found anything. Okay. Well, my question is going to be, did you remove the tree? If the answer is no,
and didn't law enforcement sit on that for a couple of days after that?
They sat on it overnight, I think. We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know for sure either. That was some of the reports, but at least we know at one point there were 5 agents standing by at that tree. Perhaps they were waiting for another cadaver dog, but I believe that 2 cadaver dogs alerted on that tree independent, didn't they, Chris?
Yeah. Yes.
According to what we've been told, folks. And I think that's something you could find that Andy actually talks about in last night's show and on some of the media that he's covered. But so it does beg an interesting question. If they have now come out with a clear statement that nothing has been recovered, then it would be interesting to know what that meant. And hopefully that's an answer that Andy will get. We certainly don't deserve that answer, but I would think he does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also you got to go back to the river now too. Okay. Have any of those rocks been removed? Has there been a search warrant to recover a potential human scent under those rocks? I mean, I don't know if anybody has, done that. We know that there's a press release tonight that says, well, anything that's been found so far, there's nothing here. Okay, no problem. So now we get to number 3 today. Okay. Andy goes out to a piece of property and 2 dogs, different dogs, hit something out there today. Okay. The authorities show up, and this is where the mail thing from UK, this is where they blew this up, FBI, calling and all that stuff. Well, we don't know. We weren't there. We just know that Andy said, hey, these dogs hit on something again, or a different dog hit on something. And I'm waiting here for the authorities. Okay. And as a basically what happens then at that point. Okay. Now let's put that picture up of the dog out there. You got that picture, Tim?
Why don't you call out a few of those people, Chris, while you're waiting for that?
Ann, thank you so much. Sending prayers for Andy and the troops participating in the operation. Bring Suzanne home. Exactly. Couldn't super sticker. Couldn't something once have been there and now removed? Absolutely. That's 100% possibility. What happens if the area is not processed? Well, we're going to get to that. And to that point, if something was there and removed, yeah, absolutely. Okay. But, you have to know that. It has to be. Remember the story last night about Roger Hegler and the archaeological dig? Okay. That was because a dog, her name is Rebecca Ann Jensen, okay, 1995. And this is just one of them. A dog hit a grave, and she'd been in there for, I think, almost a month. Okay. And we had to stop, contain the scene, shut it down, and called in a forensic anthropologist. By the way, that's why they're called forensic anthropologists. They move things. Okay. They move rocks, they move dirt, and they sift things kind of like early on. They do stuff like that. Evidence response team, ER, right? They bring them in. Okay. And it comes down to, if you have a dog who a handler has papers and the handler says, look, I feel confident this dog's getting a hit here. Okay. Well, that's fine. Okay. In court, you have to eliminate that. And what that means is, if I was a defense attorney, and the first thing I would say is, isn't it true there was a dog out there that hit this piece of property? Yes, Your Honor. Okay. What did you do? Right? Because the moment law enforcement says we have it and then leaves, okay, that means they've given up chain of custody of that scene. Okay. So now anybody can come behind them, okay, hypothetically, and do whatever they want to do. And let's say there were multiple people involved in this. And I'm not saying there are. I'm just playing, investigator, okay, like everybody else here, okay. But let's say there were multiple people involved, okay, and most people, different people get arrested, hypothetically, okay. The first thing I would do as an investigator, as a defense attorney, my client didn't do it. That guy did it. Okay. Well, how do you know? Because he came in later. Okay. Yeah, I planted the tree, but I wasn't around. I left. Okay. He probably knew what was going on. By the way, that's basically creating a defense. Okay, right off the bat, right from the get-go. Every defense attorney listening, you're smiling right now, and I love you.
Yeah, and I want to just mention, Chris, that again, we, the 5,500 people on here, may not have a right to know some of that evidentiary stuff. But Andy and his army of people that found some things should be given some answers. And I hope he's getting those answers. And then ultimately, we as the public, those taxpayers that are responsible in that community deserve to know what happened and whether those things occurred. And we can only hope that law enforcement has done their job and done it well, and that they have cleared all these locations. But this last one was interesting as well, because there were other indications that were very similar to. Do you want to talk about those? We don't have the picture of the dog, by the way.
You should have. I sent it over. It should be a picture of the guy standing there, and his dog's out by the rocks. Let me send it over again, and because I want people to see this, they've got to see this. Okay, and by the way, this is where Andy is right now.
It's the one with the rock wall.
No. There's a dog handler there.
I mean, with the pile of rock next to the big
dirt
pile.
He's got the yellow. He's got the yellow shirt on.
The lime shirt. Yeah. Okay.
Lime green shirt.
Yeah, it's the one with the lime shirt.
And then you can see to his right, about 15 feet, you can see the dog working in that area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yesterday, this is the area that this dog got the hit on. Okay. And this is where this dog got this hit. Okay. Let's put the picture up. Let's show everybody. And thank you, Tiffany. You're very kind.
Oh, that's very kind, Tiffany. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have it?
I think they're processing that through. And while they do, again, folks, thank you so much. We're just sharing some of the insights that we've picked up after listening to people in the field. So go ahead, Chris.
Okay. So Tim or somebody, can you zoom in? Zoom into that dog. Okay. Well, right there. There he is. See him with his head down? Okay. This was yesterday. Okay. Well, guess what? They went back today with 2 dogs. Okay. Both dogs hit right there where that dog is right now. Okay. Now, that is enough to say this does not look right with cadaver dogs. Okay. There's the handler. See him standing to the left, and there's his dog off to the right. Andy is at that site on the road as we speak, and this is why he is not here tonight. Okay. Because I suggested to him, because he called me, he said, I don't know what to do. And I said, do not leave until that is processed. Do not leave until an evidence response team gets a warrant or gets whatever they need for legal, because that right there in a court of law is probable cause. That dog is a certified cadaver dog. And in a court of law, you could go to a judge and say, Your Honor, we have a dog. He's certified as a cadaver dog. We would like to search this area. We'd like to get a warrant. And because Andy is a civilian, okay, he's not under the same rules of evidence. He's reporting, okay, information. So now the investigators have to come in and they have to eliminate that as a possibility. Okay. So what happened today is Andy stepped back because he was told, step out of this. Okay. And this is when he said, that's a cadaver dog. Okay. And it's trained to search for human remains. There could be human remains here. That was the statement that came out this morning. And that's where it blew up all over the news. Okay. Now, at this point, we don't know if there are human remains in there, okay, or at that spot. What we do know is they're not on the surface. Okay. We know that. Okay. Because that handler went over there and it's below the ground. Okay. So here's the question that I'm hoping will be answered. Okay. That ground needs to be processed. And because if it needs to be looked into, okay, and it needs to be examined, okay, correctly, and evidence needs to be retained. Do you know why? Because if down the road something, and the reason why this is important is you have to eliminate it. Okay, 100%. Because a good defense attorney is going to get an investigator on the stand and say, what is your training and experience in homicide investigation? And that he's going to question a good defense attorney will question a good investigator and say, tell me your training and experience. Okay. And that investigator is going to go, well, I've got stuff like this in my background. Okay. Lots of it. Okay. Lots of it. Okay, great. So we're gonna test your knowledge. Okay. So if you have a body that's in the ground and a cadaver dog hits on it, detective, what do you do? Okay. The moment you say, okay, what you will do, okay, is the protocol of what you would do. Well, we'd shut the scene down, we'd step back, okay, and then we would process that as an evidentiary dig, a la Daybell. A la Daybell. You want to see what a process looks like? Look at the Daybell case and the evidence response team from the FBI that came in and processed that. Okay. Now, that means you have to go into a hole, and you'll notice in the Daybell case, they dug really deep. Okay. In fact, they dug around the victim, because they didn't want to destroy any evidentiary problem on top of the victim, i.e. cross-contamination or anything like that. Okay. Beautiful work, unbelievable work. Okay. So now let's fast forward. Let's say somebody's arrested, and this dog, the first thing I would do as a defense attorney is I'd call this handler and a dog. And I would ask the question, and here would be the question, isn't it true your dog had a hit on a cadaver on such and such a date at such and such a time? Yes, that's correct. Thank you very much. Okay. Then I'd put the investigator on the stand and say, investigator so-and-so such and such, what did you do when this dog hit that tree? Well, we said we got it and we processed it, or whatever the deal is. Okay. All right. Now, how many days did they process Vallow? What, 2 days? Okay. I think it's been 12 hours, and we got a press release today that says we're not, there's nothing there, nothing to see here. Okay. Well, okay, maybe there isn't. Okay. So then guess what the next step is? Notify the family. Hey, I just want to let you know, okay, that we dug that scene up and we processed it, and there's nothing there. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, hey, keep going. Look for your sister. Okay. You know what happened, Mike? He got somebody went by there and there's nobody there. Nobody. So I told him, you told him, we talked to Andy. We said, look, he said, Chris, he said, I'm looking for my sister. I said, Andy, if I was you, and I can't tell you, I can't tell you what to do. Okay. I'm your friend, and we're just trying to help you. But if I was you, I would go camp there tonight until an evidence response team showed up. Okay. And they dug that area up and with a search warrant under the law. That's what I would do. I would wait there. I would have a press conference there tonight with the world and say, I'm looking for my sister. A cadaver dog hit this place. Will somebody eliminate it? That's what I would do. But you have to do what you have to do. She's your sister. Okay. Yeah. And so that's part of what's going on here tonight as to why Andy is not sitting with us this evening. Because
he's in the right place, Chris.
I know.
And he has been very fortunate to have you as someone that he could reach out to and talk to. And folks, again, I mean, we're not condemning anything. We're asking condemning questions in hopes that there are answers for those that are appropriate and follow protocol. It's really interesting. Chris, I'm thinking we ought to give some folks a chance to take some or to throw some questions at us. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Guys, why don't we stick up some, let's pull some questions off there. And to everybody that's been helping up, I always get dinged with thanking people for giving us donations, Chris. I'm not chasing money, folks, but I certainly can't go without acknowledging when you give us help financially, because it really does help us. And for those that can't do it, we certainly understand. We love your questions. We love the association we have with you. But please give me a break. We're going to call out people that help us because they do help us. And thank you so much. So is Andy there by himself right now, Chris? I don't think he is he? I think he's got a couple people with him.
Yeah, he's down there with the handlers, the dog handlers. In fact, that's who I spoke. The experts.
The certified dog handlers that have proven 3 times that they can find dead bodies.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. That's interesting. Can we do anything to help? You're doing it, folks. The kind wishes you're sending to Andy have buoyed him up. You have seen how tired he was this weekend. All of us were tired, and we weren't out humping up and down mountains and running this thing and feeling the emotional pressure. But you are doing it. Those of you that are going to the GoFundMe page and giving him money, he started out with a goal of $10,000. Today, it is approaching $21,000. It is spectacular what you're doing, and it is being sensed all around. So thank you. Chris, did they have a warrant to dig on the property? I don't think we know that, do we?
We don't know that right now. They have held that property all morning. Okay. Now, what that would look like and what it means, okay, is somebody is going to get a search warrant. Okay, because you can't step into that property, okay, without a search warrant. Now, can somebody trespass that property? Yeah, it's a misdemeanor. Okay, can the dog go up?
Don't trespass it. Don't trespass.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that. No, that's where I was going here. Don't do that. But I was saying under the law, okay, trespassing is a misdemeanor typically, and it all depends. The spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. I mean,
now, one thing that could happen, Andy has the money to replace a few trees. The property owner could give him permission to remove that tree if law enforcement's not going to, and buy him a new tree if they can't save that one. So if you're a property owner or the property owner of these places that are being looked at,
that's how you can help.
That's how you can really help is Andy has the money to dig up a tree.
Well,
and if it's been waived off, then maybe he ought to. I don't know. Maybe law enforcement couldn't get a warrant, Chris. Maybe they applied and they couldn't. And so the question becomes, well, why didn't they just say we couldn't get a warrant for the location? Yeah. Maybe that's something they feel like they need to keep quiet. I don't know. But gosh, the public wants government to be a little more transparent. We weren't as transparent when we were cops. Today, the change in the environment is that we have to be more transparent, and but that's a way people can help. And folks, I think the local law enforcement agency knows how all of us feel and what we're praying and hoping for. And Andy has certainly been straightforward. His plans are to leave in a day or two, aren't they?
I don't think after today he's going to leave, because I talked to him about an hour ago. He said, if I have to get this is quote, if I have to get a backhoe, I'm going to do it myself. Okay. Now, what he's going to do, because I know he's already talking to some of the property owners. Okay. There are some really good people that own that beachfront property. They're great people. Okay. And he's talking to them. He's going to communicate with them. And he told me about 2 hours ago, he said, if I have to get hold of each one of these property owners, he said, I'm going to do that. Okay. Now, what that means, right, is he can get consent now, because law enforcement gave up the scene. Okay. They've released the scene. So he's back to private citizen. Here I come. Okay.
If that's accurate, we don't know that for sure, do we? Yeah, we know
the rivers. We know the river. He's released the river. There's nobody sitting there tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody. Okay. So
and there could be some really interesting challenges on that river when you've got water involved. That could be problematic. But I get exactly what you're saying. I mean,
right.
And that's the appeal or the plea maybe to those people listening from Salida is if you know those landowners, Andy has the money to buy you a new tree. If this is something that he so desperately and so strongly feels needs to happen, there are ways in which he could do that if those landowners.
That's the other thing. The senator, he's also on the phone. That was the other thing he was doing. He says, I'm calling that senator. Okay. And so about an hour ago, he was calling that senator that said, whatever you need, I'll help you. And so guess what he's doing? He's calling that senator. Okay. And now, but here's the sad part. Okay. Here's the sad part. Okay. That if he has to keep going through these kind of hoops, okay, we've got to really step back for a moment and say, okay, as investigators, and Mike is, behavioral analyst, and you being a profiler forever, we got to step back and say, okay, well, is there something else going on here that we're not seeing the big picture? And I'm not talking about CBI or FBI or anything or sheriff's department yet. Okay, but I have arrested a lot of cops in my life as well. Okay, trust me.
Well, we're not suggesting that.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they are. I'm saying that what I have done. Okay? Yeah. What I have done. Now, and because if you don't follow the rules, okay, and there's other things going on, that means there's other things going on. Okay. And I'm not saying that's the case. Let's reiterate. Okay. I'm using my personal experience from my personal life. That's me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so he's sitting there waiting for answers. If anybody is in Salida tonight, take pictures, please. Please take all the pictures you can get and send them to the evidence room this evening. Take a picture of the riverbed. Take a picture of as much as you can get. Please send them in.
Okay? Don't trespass. Don't trespass.
No, don't break any laws. Of course not. We're not even suggesting that. That's crazy. We don't want you doing.
So let's take a couple more questions. Yeah. The county budget. Yeah, we've heard it from a number of people that the budget, because of COVID and this case, is really strained. I would hate to think that we don't complete an investigation because of budget, and so I would suspect that the state and the feds involved in this would have the resources to follow this case through if they determine there's enough to follow. And again, folks, we're not on the inside. We're looking at public information like you are, and so we have to constantly remind ourselves there are pieces of this puzzle that we don't know. But what we do know is that Andy has reported that he was there and watched certified cadaver dogs key in on a location, that he went there for a specific reason based on tips that he'd received, and that there were positive alerts, and apparently it's been disregarded. So,
well, and when I see comments like that, the budget has been exhausted. I personally, okay, that means there's a price tag for every citizen in Salida. Let's think about that. Okay, so how much did the first search cost? That's where I would go to the line item budget at the next counselors meeting, and somebody can say, yeah, for this process it costs us $120,000. Well, guess what? That's how much each citizen cost in Salida. Because if it cost $140,000, okay, there's no more budget. Okay, but budget is irrelevant. Okay, we're talking about criminal investigation of potential criminal activity. That's what we're talking about. And if people are worried about budget, folks, you need to get another job. Okay, you really do, because if it was my wife and she disappeared. And the sheriff says, if that was whoever said it, because I just saw the text going by, hey, we don't have a budget. Okay. I'm going to say, well, you better get one. Okay. Quick. Okay? Yeah. Because and call the senator, because that senator says, I've got budget for you. All you have to do is ask me. And so let's see if the senator comes through and for the good people down there. Go ahead, Mike.
Golden, we don't have an answer for you of whether law enforcement's upset. Do they have a right to be upset? I don't think so. This is the family trying to find somebody. I would hope that they're not upset. Chris has mentioned before, checking your ego at the door. People can have their toes stubbed, but holy cow, this is an organization, if they do have a budget, that's a challenge, and they could only muster 100 people to search for her in the first 4 months, and some guy walks in with 700. It seems like it would make really good sense to leverage that free gift of 7 times what you've already done and put those free workers to work and give them some direction. They all signed releases, so they would have relieved them. But did I miss a question there? There was one that popped up.
Something about something. I don't know what it was. But
well, let's take a couple more questions. And we also asked Mark Johnson from Visual Law to move to a different night as things started going crazy on us. Mark has been working, he and Abby, desperately to bring in imagery to show changes in those locations over periods of time dating back to before Mother's Day. And it's going to be interesting to see if something evidentiary as they pull in all those satellite images dating back to May 7th, 8th, before she disappears, and make those available to law enforcement. That will be hopefully something that reveals some human movement that becomes really interesting, including maybe lucking out and seeing whether she was on a bicycle or whether a mountain lion was prowling in the area or other kinds of things.
So let's take that off the plate, right, Mike? In terms of, let's just talk about Suzanne. Okay, let's just talk about Suzanne. Okay, 49-year-old mother of 2. Okay, she's gone. She's missing. Where is she? Okay, now 750 people from around the United States of America show up and say, we're going to help find her. Okay. Dogs, horses, boats, sonar, technology. I'll just go down the list. Okay. Hey, we've got 3 spots we need checked. Okay. We got this. Okay. We got this.
Yeah.
Now, okay. Tomorrow is another day. Okay. I hope we wake up tomorrow morning, okay, and we see a van, an evidence response team, and somebody with a search warrant on that piece of property that Andy is sitting at, okay? And I'm going to go on the record tonight, and this is going to be on YouTube for a very long time, okay? If I was an investigator, I would cross the T's and dot the I's. That's all I'm going to say, okay? Because at that point, Andy now has things that he can do, okay? And you know, it can get crazy at that point.
Yeah, let me reiterate, Chris. Andy has the money to dig 3 holes in the ground. That's all this would take if a landowner would permit it, and so the expense could be covered by Andy to dig that hole in the ground if the landowner would give permission. And you know what? We would walk away feeling more comfortable that at least the hole was dug. We don't need to know the answer. We just need to know the process was followed.
Right.
And so that would be at least my plea to law enforcement, that somehow there's an explanation, because this continuing to say we're not going to talk about the case, this is just human dignity to share with this family what's going on.
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. It's Suzanne. This is Suzanne. Suzanne is missing. Okay. Her family has a right to know that all the T's, all the I's have been crossed and dotted. Okay. I mean, for goodness sake, everybody, the only reason there are people here tonight is not because of Chris and Mike. That's for sure. Trust me. Right? Yeah. You're here because of Suzanne Morphew. And I'm here because of Suzanne Morphew. Mike's here.
Captured all of our hearts. I mean,
everybody.
you got 5,700 people on right now listening. By the time this broadcast is over, there will have been 25,000 people on, and it will continue to be viewed all around. It is absolutely incredible how she has captured the heart of so many people. And the really sad part is, Chris, that there are 100,000 Suzannes every year.
Yeah, it's sad.
Across the country.
And we've got a couple that we're going to talk about coming up too, right, Mike? I mean, this is not the only case that we're coming into here. There's meaning in terms of covering. Okay, I mean, we've got a lot of things on the horizon here. This one of the reasons Michael and I, came to do this was to help this whole scenario in terms of educate, analyze, and empower. I mean, that's what we're doing. I mean, how many people a year go missing, Michael? I mean, what was the stats again?
Well, roughly 800 plus thousand every single year reported missing, and probably, I don't know, somewhere between 83 and 87% of those return home. Yep. So for the last 40 years, it's been an average of truly missing and never accounted for about 104,000 a year. I mean, it's astronomical.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so, every one of those individuals, those people have a huge story. There is a story to be told. Okay. And it's a crime. Thank you, Linda. So appreciate you.
Yeah, Linda, folks, make sure you're visiting Linda and Duty Ron's channel. And we just love the association we have with them. Yep. In fact, I think Linda even had some of our imagery up the other night. I didn't see our logo on there. So Linda, I didn't see our logo on there.
Love Linda.
No, we just love the relationship that we have with all of you. And holy cow, all of you people. I don't know. Let's try to get a few more questions in, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Mardell7 too. Thank you so much. And to Paula, Paula is so wonderful over at Plunder, and that is a very private individual. One day, with enough votes from all of you, Paula is going to come on and spend some time with us. But we appreciate you all, and you're all just amazing.
We don't know.
Thank you. We did. We were fortunate to spend about an hour with Dr. Phil last night. Yeah. What a great human being. Yep. Thursday or Friday that will be on. So please make sure you watch it and support Dr. Phil, who has been so supportive of us. In fact, the whisper from the other side is that he might even celebrity bomb us one night on our choir practice. So yeah, we'll see what happens there.
We'll hope we get Dr. P up here, right?
That'd be a lot of fun. How about a couple more questions?
Yep. So this is what do we got here? Well, so some of the other things, I mean, we talk about missing people. I mean, there are 50. I think there's recently the president put together a team to investigate American, Indians on reservations. And, there's I think there's like 1,500, cases that are unsolved. And so, these are the kind of things that everybody looks at and you go, wow, what's this all about? How's Lauren doing? I guess she's doing great, but not really. Okay. Lauren is a true investigative reporter. We don't know the whole story. I have no idea. Whatever, because we're number one, she's not allowed to talk about it. And she told me I can't talk about it. So she's not. And so we respect that. And we're going to just let that go. Could they have they ruled out site where Andy is with ground penetration radar, or does it require a dig to be certain? Well,
Yeah, that's a great idea. Think about this. If it's a root ball and a tree, how are you going to penetrate at an angle? That's a challenge, Chris, but what a great question.
Yeah, you can't shoot through rocks.
Yeah. Dra Latina, great to see you. And by the way, thanks for standing up for us recently. You know what? I agree. My problem with Chris is he's a racehorse that I run out of the strength holding the reins back on from time to time. He is an investigative machine, and Chris, you are to be complimented for that.
Well, I don't think I'm any different than anybody else. I mean, seriously, I'm like you, meaning it's the human condition. When there's no life left, okay, somebody has to tell the story. And whether we like it, it's a plus or a minus, okay? I want that guy, if something ever happened to me, I want that guy that goes like this and lifts that and then puts it down and say, nothing in there, okay? And one of the things that I have always done as an investigator, and by the way, I had very few cases go to trial, okay? And the ones that did go to trial were very successful. Okay. I mean, I lost one. It was a shaking baby situation, and it was a very sad day. Okay. For the family, for the mother, because, I'm not going to go into the details, but it was a situation that the jury believed that, some certain things. However, okay, when you're dealing with the only thing think about it, the only thing Suzanne has right now is the grit of the investigator willing to tell her story at any cost. And that means, even if it's a negative, okay, you have to eliminate it. You have to. Whether you like to or want to, or because the first thing a defense attorney is going to do for their client, which is their job, is to say to the investigator, did you do A, B, C, D, and E? Remember, we used to call that, when I was in Southern California, getting fonged. Okay. Remember that case? What was that guy's name? OJ. Okay. And the Bailey.
You got to look here.
Oh my gosh.
Paul Mooney. Thank you so much. How much we love and appreciate you and everyone else.
Remember Bailey, when he set the evidence guys up, and he asked him, he said, so, and go back and go watch the old OJ trial where he's got the rubber gloves, and he was talking about collecting the blood evidence and using swabs. And he basically, he lines them up, he sets them up. So how many sets of gloves? Well, I put one on. He said, and then did you put a second set on after you took the first set off? Did you put another one on as you did the swab? He said, yeah. And then he turned, and I'll never forget this, and he goes, what about that, Mr. Fong? Because the evidence tech was Mr. Fong, remember? Hey? Yeah. Well, we came out of that going, don't get fonged. Okay. Whatever you do, okay, don't go there. So that you learn lessons from watching other lessons. And so you learn to look underneath, and you say, oh, there's nothing there. Okay, I'm good.
That's the real key, isn't it, Chris? Is there is an obligation to look under every stone and make sure that it's not, to use the cliche, make sure every stone is turned over.
Right. Yeah.
The interesting thing in question to this, or in response to this question, where the dog hits on the same property, multiple dogs hit on the same location in several of these. So hopefully that helps answer that question without revealing too much. And frankly, we're hearing just bits and pieces like you.
And you just get a search warrant, and it eliminates it. That's it. Just get a search warrant. That's it. Duty, Ron.
There we go. Thanks, Ron.
There you go, Ron.
Isn't he amazing? He's not available, by the way. He's got a full-time job.
Yeah. And
thanks.
Can you explain the triangle, please, again? triangulation is what I think that's what you're trying to talk about, triangulation. So triangulation it starts in three. It's a triangle. Okay. So up here, well, I'll put over here in this corner typically, because this would be the bad guy, the bad person. Okay. Over here, okay, you would have the messenger. Okay. And at the top, you have the victim. Okay. So the way this works is the suspect, the bad guy, says something to the messenger. Frank is I don't like Frank, And so the messenger tells Frank, hey, the bad guy doesn't like you. Okay. And then Frank goes to the bad guy and says, hey, why are you saying you don't like me? And the bad guy says, what are you talking about? I never said I didn't like you. Who told you that? Okay. And pushes back to the victim. Okay. Now, okay, that's triangulation. So what they do is they transfer messaging through this triangle. Okay. That is a narcissistic personality trait in criminal behavior. And you see it in domestic violence. You see it in homicides. And we used to love it. And Michael, speak to this. We used to love it when a suspect showed up with somebody. Okay. Whenever there was a second person around the suspect, okay, the first thing you'd always get when you get into the interview with this guy is, and you go through the niceties and, tell me who you are, tell me about your life, etc. And then you say, well, so why are you here today? Okay. That's the first question. The second is, why now? Why today? Okay. And they say, well, I'm here because my friend Frank out there, who's going to tell you everything that, I'm going to tell you. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that's triangulation. Okay. So you go out to Frank and you say, hey, Frank, you got a minute? Let's interview you. And the suspect goes and sits outside in the waiting room and says, well, Frank's going to say what, I told him to say. Okay. And then you're the investigator. You go, well, I think he's probably going to say what that guy told him to say. So Frank, what do you got to say? And you already know what the guy potentially could say. And so that's kind of, whenever you see that, okay, whenever you see somebody hanging out with a friend real close through a murder investigation or something to that effect, okay, then that's typically a red flag. In fact, it's a red flag. Cops love that. Investigators love that because that goes up to the top of the flagpole and it just says, hey, there's more here. You need to start asking different questions.
There you go.
And then start breaking down. Go ahead.
So Chris, thanks, brother. Love you. Love you. I'm gonna leave with just one more thing. It's gonna drive a batch of people crazy. It's not about you, but it is about one individual. And to that individual, just know that we are aware. And until then, I guess the question I have, Chris, is why on earth did Andy have to come out and do this? Why did he have to do it? It's really unfortunate. Thursday night, we have a special guest. We're going to be talking about the architecture of a narcissistic personality. Who are we going to be talking to, Chris? And you don't want to miss this.
You do not want to miss this. Dr. Ramani. She is world renowned.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go look at Dr. Ramani's site. 500,000 subscribers. She is a rock star. And when it comes to understanding narcissism, she is going to lay it out and make it clean and clear. So until we see you on Thursday, we wish you the very best. If you own property in that community and you can help Andy get permission to dig a couple of holes, we would sure appreciate it. Please make sure that he knows about it. Thanks, folks. Good night.
Hit that subscribe button and thank you. Appreciate you.